can't bring me down. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. And my feet have come too far for you to tie 'em to the ground. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at. They turn it back around. You can't stop me.
Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight and I'm sitting down tonight with a couple different offers. One of them being Dawn. How are you? How's your new book doing? You want to tell them about your new book? Because it's very interesting.
Sure. I'm good. I'm in Alaska. So it's not coffee time for me exactly. It's nearing wine time, but my book is called Shadow Animals. Here's a copy of it. It's basically how animals we fear can help us heal, transform, and awaken.
Mhm.
So it's a book about looking at shadow animal teachers in order to learn more about ourselves and in order to learn more about the shadow within ourselves.
Okay. And this isn't your first rodeo. You've got 9 books out, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
With this one, why'd you take it on?
Well, my last book was called Awakening the Ancient Power of Snake. And I had an amazing dream about a snake, and it kind of invited me to understand more about our connection with snake. You know, back in ancient times, snake was very much revered, very much a teacher, very much aligned with gods, goddesses, royalty, the pharaohs in Egypt, things like that. And it kind of showed me how we've shifted. We've really disconnected, humans, that is, disconnected ourselves from snake and really from our own story of who we are. And during the writing of it, I lived with 2 snakes and just learned so much about what I would call shadow animals, which are animals we fear or feel uncomfortable with. And so when I finished that book, my plan was to take a nice 6-month break, but this book came up. I just felt very inspired by shadow animals and to tell more of their story and our connection with animal teachers. Yeah.
And it's different, because, humans over time, especially as we've gotten more diverse and divorced from the wildlife and nature in itself, city living, suburb living. It's a big thing if a black bear is in most people's neighborhood. Mine was like, is it trash day already? But,
Yeah.
why do you think we have built this fear? Is it more the fear of unknowing?
Yeah, I think it's fear of the wild, huh? And which is fear of the wild within ourselves, that is, it can't be controlled. We don't know what it's going to be like. It requires us to bring another aspect of ourselves. I think this is kind of a general answer, but I think in general, we have evolved in some ways that aren't good for us because we very much about control and wanting things to be a certain way, and that's why you have cookie cutter fast food places all over the place, and so we've kind of lost touch with our own authenticity, who we really are, and because of that, we've lost relationship with animals and animals as teachers, animals as guides, etc.
We hear a lot of talk about, like, example, wolves. One, they were almost hunted to extinction, but at the same time, wolves used to move with, the indigenous people of the Americas. There was a very strong connection with them, with bears, with other animals. Did you tap into that for some of this book?
Well, yeah, I think that's part and parcel of the whole thing of shadow animals is that we used to have, in general, a much more open connection with animals, all types of animals, and we had, shamans would often voyage with their animal spirit or their animal teacher. Animals figure prominently in dreams. They figure prominently in our myths and our legends. You look at almost any myth or legend, and there's an animal in it, an animal guide, an animal teacher. Sometimes the animal is the, what you challenge, what challenges you.
Right.
But yeah, all of these things. I mean, I think animals have been teachers for humans for a very, very long time. And again, you look back at many of our creation myths, and they're often animals that are creating
Right.
the world and helping humans come into being. Yeah.
Right. Well, how's this book done for you? How's the
Well,
reviews? Is Amazon liking you? I know that's always so hard.
the book was actually supposed to come out mid-October, and my publisher contacted me. Everything got put on hold. So the launch isn't until November 8th.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually not it's for pre-sale on
Uh-huh.
Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and I have some very nice reviews that have
Uh-huh.
come out already from review copies, and
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, it's not technically out yet. So you
Well,
heard the inside
I got
scoop
a
here.
review copy. It's a good book. It really is. I'm enjoying it. This one I've read. I do what I call speed reading, and that's what I do for the shows. I read through the book. I make sure that we aren't talking like aliens taking over the earth, or the lizard people are now influencing our government, that type of thing. But this one, I've gone back to it, and I'm starting to actually work through it and look at it through your lens, and I'm enjoying that view.
Oh,
Um,
good.
Matter of fact, you've got a copy of the book. I don't have the copy in front of me because mine's on my nightstand.
Uh-huh.
Um, but when you were writing it, I hear that you talked about living with snakes when we talked about the Medicine of the Snake book.
Mhm.
Did you actually go and experience these animals, or did you just let spirit bring it to you?
Well, the book has 13 different chapters that look at different animals or animal groups.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them, I mean, some are known, birds.
Mm-hmm.
We have birds everywhere, and insects, cats, dogs. Some I no, I didn't necessarily go to visit, in real
Mm-hmm.
in waking life, but oftentimes I did visit with these animals in dreams or in journeys,
Right.
and really made an attempt to get to know them in deeper ways. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a student of mythology, and I love doing that. And I also love to, in the book, to present a lot of information about how the animal lives, its biology, its habitat,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Because all of these things make up, that
Right.
animal, right? It's not just our projections on the animal.
Right.
I make a real attempt to know the animal itself.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
you do very well with that. One of them, where I'm at actually is when we're looking at nightmares, and I'm going back through that one. Um, that's chapter 7 for those that want to go and get that copy. Um, Meeting the night more. This is a re-entering these sacred dreams and meeting our shadow animals face to face.
Hmm.
How was that one for you to get into?
About nightmares specifically?
Yes, because they can
Well,
be so many places.
I've been a dreamer. I've had my first little dream journal was when I was like 10 years old. I've always been into dreams and always been working with dreams. I rarely have nightmares anymore, and I think it's because I'm just working with dreams so much. And although there can be scary elements, maybe scary animals in a dream,
Hmm.
oftentimes the dream is about understanding why that fear is there. I
Right.
had a series of dreams about big cats, and it was definitely, there's levels of fear involved.
Hmm.
And in one of the dreams, it was like, how present can I be? Can I stand there and face that lion? It was a lion,
Hmm.
in a way that can deepen me into the dream. And I was able to in that dream. And later, the one of the her cub became a jaguar, a black
Hmm.
jaguar. So yeah, yeah. So the more we work with our dreams, I think the less nightmares we have. Um, my sister and I used to call nightmares bad dreams, but I don't think
Hmm.
there's anything as a bad dream. I think dreams are all helpful. They really are.
Right. I think they're very helpful. I think they sometimes have to give us pause, i.e., when
Mhm.
we see like four buzzards picking up a rabbit, it's like, okay, what are we picking up hard here? That's, pausing our prosperity. What are we nitpicking? But, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in when we work in the dream world, because a lot of that, dreams talk to people more so than they talk to these books and 10,000 dream meanings. Well, that's cute that you can figure out a piece of paper means this in your dream. What about my dream? So
Yeah.
how did you work within that sphere there?
With the what? I'm sorry, with the what?
How did you work within that sphere there of dealing with the dream world and the nightmares and symbolism? Did you?
I work with it in a personal way.
Yeah.
And I think the dreams that I present, many of them are personal dreams, but I'm always alert and key to the universal. I
Mm-hmm.
think dreams are personal, but I think oftentimes they also speak. Sorry about that. My computer's just dinging for some reason.
It woke up. All the notifications coming in. We know that sound.
Maybe it's saying important point. Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
I'm always keen to look at what is the universal in a dream, because I think sometimes we have individual dreams that speak to a larger audience,
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what I do, a lot of the dream work I do in the book is explaining why I think, let me say it this way, I'm being a dream detective. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at what this means and what the scene means and what that relationship means. And as, hopefully as a way to help readers understand how to do that in their dreams.
Right.
Because that's really what we all need to do, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now the
Yeah,
front of the
dreams
book,
hold incredible wisdom. I mean, they're the stories we tell ourselves.
right?
You
They
know?
do, and
Yeah.
the stories that we analyze within ourselves. It's our subconscious sending smoke screens to our conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the other animals we look at are the rats, i.e., the treasure keepers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you call them, or did you call them because of my book, The Treasure Keeper?
I called them the treasure keepers because of your book, darling.
Well, aren't you a good reader? Yeah, I think rats. We have the rat has a bad rap in the West,
Mm-hmm.
huh? It really does.
Right.
And yet, people who talk to people who live with rats, and they'll tell you rats are incredibly smart and incredibly clean.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the projections we have on rats are projections. They're more about
Right.
us than they are about rats. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I think it's probably more so, the whole Black Plague thing and the covering up of the bad handling and, let's cover up the decimation of the cat population that actually allowed that to cover up. So let's, make them the scapegoat, which is
Yeah.
another chapter in your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scapegoat. That's such an interesting one, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Should we go into that a little? Or
Sure.
Well, scapegoats, back in the day, groups of people in villages or whatever there'd be an annual meeting to take their sins or their transgressions and kind of symbolically put them on a live goat.
Mm-hmm.
And then the goat was sent out into the wilderness to take the sins away so that the people could feel lighter. And it is such an interesting way of dealing with shadow. And I think that's kind of our problem, is that we want to load our issues, our problems onto someone or something else. So the goat can leave and go into the wilderness and what we don't know what happens to it. Right.
Right.
And it's what we do in the world. We project, everything that is shadow, which is our repressed emotions, our dark beliefs, things we're feeling uncomfortable with, we project out there. So if you want to know what your shadow is, all you have to do is go out in the world and find out what's your trigger, what bothers you, who annoys you,
Right.
Compass politician, driver. Yeah, they're all over there, right?
Yeah.
But that again is our projection. It's way less about really what the person is, or the surface that we're projecting on, and way more about us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we do that to animals too. And that's why
We do.
collectively rats can be, a collective projection of shadow material.
Right.
Some people have individual ones. Some people don't like alligators, or, some people don't like cats, dogs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cats are one of the ones that kind of trip through history a lot. I'm sure there was a lot of mythos because, they go from being worshipped in Egypt, feared in England, and decimated by the movement of the church there.
And in the early Americas too, cats were really not a welcome.
Right. Which, I find interesting looking at history and how you don't have enough cats, you get more rats. If you are dealing with transformation, you're going to have to go and find your own hidden treasures.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cats are, I mean, I think cats, they are a little bit mysterious. And a lot of shadow animals are kind of
Mhm.
creatures of the night, huh? They're more awake in the evenings. They're associated with the dark, with shadows, with a way of being that again we can't pin down. So
Right,
cats, especially, they move in those cat-like ways, and
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're right? They're
Right.
suspected by humans.
Suspected, unsure of, questioning where they're at, how they're doing things. And then also, a lot of people fear anything they can't control.
Hmm.
They project, and cats, you know,
Yeah.
forget controlling them. We have, eliminated that idea. What's interesting is the cover of your book's a wolf.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that imagery?
I didn't choose that imagery.
Uh,
It's always a mystery to me when I work with this particular publisher, what they're going to come up with. And, my idea of what the cover should be is one thing. And then when I see it, I was blown away by this cover. I'll just hold it up
it's
again.
a
That
gorgeous
wolf,
cover.
it's hard to see, but that wolf has these intense yellow eyes that when you look at the cover, they kind of go in a little. Did you
Hmm.
notice that in your cover? Yeah,
Yes.
and so the art director at Inner Traditions came up with this, and when I saw it, I was like, "Man, you
Hmm.
nailed it. That's that's exactly it."
Right.
It's because wolf. I think we spoke about it. Wolf being kind of this majestic animal that has so much wisdom, but also a feared animal. And for
Yeah.
many, many centuries, wolf was, the number one enemy of,
Right.
of humans. Yeah, in many different parts of the world,
And
Europe as
still
well as
are.
America. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And still are.
For some, yeah, for some it
We
is.
came out of the Halloween season, and a lot of people in general was all about that fear mentality of the werewolf and
Oh yeah, yeah,
stealing the things and that type of thing. I'm like, oh, can we just not?
yeah,
Can we just not repress that anymore?
yeah.
Yeah. So, this is one of 9. Now, this one isn't out yet, guys. You're going to have to go and just pre order it. It's a nice thick book. It'll take you at least a month to get through. Get your notepad, your sticky notes, some highlighters ready for that. You've got some more books out there, and you have a deck.
Yeah.
Let's move up, though, to the one that inspired us, Awakening the Ancient Power of the Snake.
Hmm.
Tell us about this one.
Well, like I said, it was inspired by a dream I had. It was actually on the winter solstice, and my husband and my daughter were, putting up lights and things, and I was in bed in intense agony. I had a back spasms really, really, really bad.
Hmm.
And at one point when they're kind of, they would come and go like in waves. And at one point when it was quiet, I said, what do I need to know? As soon as I said it, I saw this immense snake, ancient, archetypal, huge, way right in front of my face. And I was kind of in that semi-lucid state in between
Hmm.
dreaming and waking, huh? And what came out of my mouth was, "How can I help you?"
Uh-huh.
And that's when the snake showed me this huge, like, almost like a movie panorama of its relationship with humans, from being very exalted and honored and worshipped, and as a guide to, like I said, gods and goddesses, royalty,
Hmm.
to where it's become today. And the snake told me it had lost its tail.
Hmm.
There's a part of the dream where I'm sitting with an old woman in a cabin. She's an old kind of a witch healer,
Hmm.
slash, and we're both sitting in rocking chairs, and we each have a black snake on our lap, and the
Hmm.
tail is cut off, and we're sewing the snake back together. It was such an interesting symbology. And when
Right.
I woke up, there was more to the dream, but when I woke up, I thought, what does that mean? I've lost my tail. And I realized it wasn't the TAIL, it was the TALE, the story.
Hmm.
Snake has lost its story of who it once was, and we have lost our story of our
Right.
connection with snake. And so that's really what got me interested in snakes in general. It was almost like I woke up and I thought, how have I never seen how awesome snakes are before,
Right.
And
Well,
and yeah,
yeah, they're used in so much symbology too. I mean, everything from
yeah,
the symbology with the Kundalini being a snake
right,
resting at the base of the human, and then going through an awakening process there.
yeah,
That's taught in Reiki. We have a lot of Southern Americans that like to show the snake in a circle and don't tread on me type behavior. I mean,
Mhm.
that symbol's been used a lot throughout the centuries, all the way back to Egypt and, possibly beforehand. But
Oh,
then we
yeah.
also have this divorce bastering of it, as it being the one that caused the divorce of Garden and Eden with the Christian faith. So there's a lot there. What do you think has caused the snake to lose its tail?
There is a lot there. Well, I think you identified it. I think it, and Joseph Campbell agrees that it was really the story of the Garden of Eden that
Mhm,
that shifted the snake, as well as the goddess figure,
mhm,
Eve, to somebody as to a temptress, to a deceiver. Both of them
mhm,
got put in a very, very bad light, and that really was a huge chasm in
mhm.
our relationship with snake and with ourselves.
Yeah,
You off the female, the divine female from yourself, well, look where we are in the world today.
right. We're going through a transformation,
We
definitely.
are, we are, we are. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so, with that and looking at that, how did you delve into so much of the mythos to get into this?
A snake, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, again, I studied a lot about the biology of snake, and I present
Mm-hmm.
that, and where snakes live, and a lot of facts about snakes, because any phobia that we have, snakes, spiders, rats, whatever it is really
Mm-hmm.
based on ignorance. That's what most scientists find, or most researchers or psychologists find. And
Right.
so it's by really learning more about snake, both as a snake, a biological
Right.
being, as well as its history, our ancestry, our history of myths and legends, as well as its symbology. That we start to see a larger version of snake,
Right.
and we start
And
to appreciate it in more ways.
yeah, and a larger version of how the snake appears, how
Hmm.
it appears through us. And
Hmm.
then do you tap in, because I haven't read those, do you tap into how to start harnessing that medicine of snake?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
look at a lot of yeah. I mean, that's what these animals show us, isn't it? They often show us about the untapped wisdom
Hmm.
or abilities that we have within ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snake
Yeah.
is very powerful, and I do think there's a reason why it's the most feared,
Right.
is because I think what you alluded to before, the Kundalini, the sleeping serpent, they call it in India. It has to do with awakening the essence of our power, of who we really
Right.
are, and that's been damped down for so long.
Hmm. Why do you think that, well, two-part question. Why do you think that some people have hallucinations of more shadow animals? Um, I don't feel like too many people have hallucinations of cats in a room, but they'll hallucinate that the room is filled with snakes. Looking at Jung's work and different works, what do you think about that?
I think it's fear. I think some hallucinations are based on what we fear seeing. So if
Right.
it's a snake, then you're seeing that. That might be your shadow animal.
Hmm.
A snake could represent, again, untapped power,
Hmm.
untapped wisdom. Sometimes I think shadow animals come to kind of test us, to
Hmm.
see, are we ready for their medicine, if you will. Are we
Right.
ready to take that on and awaken through that?
Right.
Yeah.
Because one of the most memorable scenes of the craft is, I think it starts out with the girl sees snakes and spiders all the time. And I find it interesting, by the end of the story, she literally is like the only one that had the real magic to begin with.
Mm, mm.
It's kind of like, could you be seeing things to open up that wisdom of
Yeah,
working with spider, of working with snake, of awakening the kundalini, awakening the energy?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. Maybe I could just tell a quick little
Hmm.
story about my first encounter. My first remembered encounter with a shadow animal was, I was 9 years old, and I was going with my mom and my sister to visit a
Hmm.
friend of my mom's. She's a couple hours away, so we were going to spend the night. And this woman had cats. She had three cats.
Mhm.
And I've never been a cat person. I don't dislike them, but I'm just a dog person. Always have
Mhm.
been. So this woman had cats, and we spent the night. And early the next morning, I went down to get a glass of milk. And there, sitting in front of the refrigerator, is the eldest cat. It was a beautiful gray cat with brilliant green eyes. And it was looking at me, staring into me in a very particular way. It wasn't threatening, but
Uh-huh.
I felt like it was looking into me, huh? Like it
Uh-huh.
was seeing something within me. And it scared me. And I turned and I ran. I ran up the stairs. And the cat followed really close,
Uh-huh.
jumped in my mom's bed, right? And it, it became a funny thing. Don's
Mhm.
afraid of cats, right? But and at 9 years old, I didn't have the wherewithal to say that's my shadow animal. But what was significant is within a very short amount of time, I became incredibly allergic to cats.
Huh.
Got red eyes, nose
Mhm.
running, rash everywhere. And so for a good decade and a half, I just it found it easier to avoid cats, nothing to do
Mhm.
with them. Again, I didn't hate them or dislike them. They
Right.
were just, off limits. And then in college, I had a dream of a cat. And the
Mhm.
cat sat at the top of the refrigerator and was looking at me in a very particular way. And this became a series of dreams. And
Mhm.
the dreams, always the cat was there. It had a little hat, so I knew it was the same cat with a little feather on it. It was always just looking at me. There was no words, no actions, nothing, just
Mhm.
observing me. And I started to relate it to, this incident when I was 9 years old, and started
Mhm.
asking myself, what did that cat see that I didn't want to see? What
Right.
was so powerful that caused me to have this allergy? And as I started asking questions like that and working with the dreams, that cat became an ally, a teacher,
Mhm.
So,
Oh.
and I think that's a good example of how when we're ready to work with our shadow animal teachers,
Mhm.
they really do become mentors and guides and helpers.
Right.
And yeah, I still have a tiny allergy towards cats, but I love cats now. I mean, I don't live with them. I live with
Right.
dogs.
I have a question though. As an animal communicator,
Mhm.
do your allergies flare up when you're talking with another cat?
No, no. And I've had some
Interesting.
great, great, great talks with cats. I just find them so fascinating. And they're always a little testy. I get testing. They
Uh-huh.
test a little, and when they see, oh, she's willing to, to go there and to talk about this, then
Uh-huh.
they open up. Not all. I mean, every animal is different that you speak
Right.
to, and most of my animals, just for your audience sake, it's over Skype or Zoom. It's not in person necessarily,
Right.
so the allergy wouldn't flare up.
Just interested because the reason I asked that is because I know a lot of psychics, specifically ones that have allergies.
Hmm.
And there's a medium, and I love her to death, but she can only stay about 30 minutes around me. But every
Mm,
time she goes to because I smoke,
mm,
and she's highly allergic, and I understand, and we have lovely phone conversations and do well with that. But the minute she'll start reading for someone, and a spirit comes in with a cigarette in her mouth, her allergies will start acting up, and she goes, "Did they smoke?"
oh wow, that's an interesting way to, yeah,
Yeah,
to tell that. Uh-huh.
yeah. So I just wondered if your cat allergy got kicked up with communicating with them. What's the most chatty ones for you?
What's what?
What's the most chatty animals for you?
Oh, it just really depends. I mean, it's sort of like you would say, what's the chattiest human? It just really depends, right?
Yeah,
Is it the one from West Virginia? I'm not sure.
yeah. I just wondered, because for me, when I've read with horses, they seem very wise, but they have very few words to say.
Mm.
And it's like, this is what I need to tell you. Now, get the hell and leave me alone. I got other things to do today. Whereas, if I'm looking at like Yorkies, they run their mouth about everything. They are the biggest gossip bungler I've ever heard.
Well, it's true. Some animals are very chatty, and they're
Uh-huh.
and it's kind of superficial at times.
Yeah.
Other animals can be very deep. I mean,
Hmm.
I've tapped into animals that have like this amazing inner scientist that they can bring out, or
Hmm.
an amazing philosopher self. And sometimes very deep wisdom comes through animals. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What seems to be your chief complaint from the animal community?
Um, Ugh, that's a hard question. I don't know if there's a chief complaint so much as they wish their people would trust themselves more.
Hmm.
Oftentimes it's concern for the human,
Right. A
like
lot of
trust yourself more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find that a lot of mine has been one that the humans don't notice them as much as they think they should,
Mm,
or notice the things that humans change without even thinking about it.
mm,
An
mm,
example is I was talking with a lady, and she had an older dog. And of course, for me, and animals always have personalities, and the dog came through as a very comfortable older woman, and it
mm.
was a female dog, and and we're talking, and the dog pops up, and I go, and she goes, I don't know what happened to my television, but it needs to go back where it was and to be left on. Don't bother my TV. And I was like, have you moved the house around lately? Because they're complaining about not being able to watch their TV. And it took me forever to figure out what this person was what the animal was telling me compared to what the human was telling me. And
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
was they had recently redone their living room.
Mhm,
And when they redone their living room, they changed the positioning of the couch.
mhm.
So the dog couldn't get up on the back of the couch and watch all the humans outside on the um, window.
Uh-huh.
So their TV had been moved.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah, because animals, they make up they sometimes for me connect words
Uh-huh.
to what they're trying to show me, and it's
Yeah,
not the actual like TV
yeah.
window.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of an interpreting
Yeah,
as a translator. Yeah, it
yeah.
definitely.
And I'm like, the TV, and they're like, no, we didn't get a new one. No, I don't. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just not getting it. But they
Uh-huh.
used to go and watch something all the time. Like, oh yeah, they used to hang out on the back of the couch and
Yeah, yeah,
put a
yeah.
stool there so she can go watch her TV.
Right.
That would make them immensely happy.
That's funny.
So,
Yeah.
in your view, do the owner get reincarnated animals?
Short answer is sometimes.
Okay.
I think sometimes that does happen. Now, reincarnation, the way we think of it as that exact animal personality will be redone, not so much often,
Hmm.
I think it's more like kind of strands or threads of personality.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, and it's more particular humans. They'll have the same cat or dog multiple times through
Hmm.
their lifetime.
Hmm.
With the same strands of personality and behavior and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I've often debated on whether it is the same soul species taking back over or if they are attracted to the same energetical pattern of the animal.
That's a good point. Yeah, it could be that as well, couldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I would figure no, I'm the one that humans stay humans, dogs stay dogs, cats stay cats. We don't reincarnate and switch beings. I would figure that within the same soul group, they would probably try to move within that pattern. Your views?
My views is a soul can become different things,
Okay.
the body. It's that we're going into. So yeah, and I have had experiences where animals have said they were something else.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's within the family. I remember a cat in
Hmm.
particular who was telling me how it used to be a jaguar, and it,
Uh-huh.
it had very intense memories of
Right.
the jungle, and it was very specific. Other times, you can ask an animal, "What did you used to be?" And they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" It's like with humans, right?
They give you that weird look, and it's like,
Yeah, like,
welcome to my.
"What? I don't even know how strange are you?" Right?
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on the individual. Yeah, and that's how I go. I just try to hold it lightly and go
Hmm.
with whatever the animal wants to share. Yeah.
Cool. Have you ever had an animal freak out with you? Like, what are you? Who are you? Why are you? What do you mean you can talk to me?
Not so much. When I do an animal conversation or consultation, I usually spend about 10, 15 minutes beforehand
Hmm.
connecting with that animal. Oftentimes, most often, I would say it knows because its
Hmm.
human has been talking about it, or,
Right.
so it knows we're going to connect. Some will tell you their whole story right away. Others are like, we'll talk when my human comes online. They're not gonna spill any beans before
Yeah,
I
I ain't
speak to it.
sharing with you anything. I ain't no snitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's very individual. It just depends.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Have you ever had them tell on their human or tell on a human in the owner's life?
Tell on? What do you mean?
Like a cat tell on the husband cheating on their diet and how upset they are
Oh,
about
oh,
it, and the wife is the client.
I try to be respectful to all individuals in the talk.
Yeah.
So that hasn't come up for me specifically, but sometimes I think animals will say things in an attempt to make things better,
Hmm.
and they'll say something about, let's say, the husband, he has issues, and then the woman who I'm talking to might be like, well, what? And we'll kind of so it's a sharing, not in a mean spirited way,
Right.
but in a way that's designed to open up better health and better communication lines. Yeah.
Mhm. Very much so. And that's why I was like, I've had cats tell on their daddies, to their mommies that no, he's cheating on his diet. He's been eating candy bars every day.
Well,
Check the laundry basket, that type of thing. But
uh-huh.
never, I don't think I've ever had communication. The weirdest one for me was talking with a horse because normally, it's chat back and forth, between
Hmm.
me and the animal. The horse, I only got pictures with.
Hmm.
Hmm. And
Well,
emotion. And it's like, you can talk to me. I know you can talk to me, but you're just like showing me slides. What's the deal here? And that was just that being style of communication.
yeah. Again, and I think that is true. I think different animals communicate differently. Snakes, when I was connecting with a lot of snakes, a lot of the connection was with movement.
Hmm.
And that's the way that animal sees the world, that which is actually really interesting to deepen into, to feel your belly like in constant connection with the earth and the number
Hmm.
of things. Sharks, that's a wild animal to connect with,
Really?
because they really feel this electrical, well, my experience is
Hmm.
an electrical pulse that comes up through the belly, and there are maybe it's magnetic, I don't know
Right.
exactly what it is, but they have pathways in the ocean that they follow. And yeah, sharks are amazing animals that way. So we're kind of going into another aspect of animal communication, which is shape shifting, where you kind of
Hmm.
become that animal, or you're
Right.
allowed to join its body or its consciousness for a period of time to experience what the world is like from that perspective, which is amazing.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. Now, do you cover that in either of these two books, or is that another one
Um,
you've gone
I
into?
have a book called Shape Shifting with Our Animal Companions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I'm putting that on my book list.
Okay, good. Well,
Um, let's talk about something that I was really pleased about. And that is you have your own tarot deck. You didn't try to
yes.
morph the Rider Waite deck into your theme,
Mhm.
which gets a little annoying for me because I'm a tarot purist. But you have Animal Wisdom Tarot. Talk about that. How
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
to work with?
That was super fun. It was probably one of my most fun projects. I had
Hmm.
long wanted to do a tarot deck, and yeah, just the circumstances just worked out. And as I told you before we started here, they assigned me an artist, and we weren't jiving. So I found an artist, my own artist. She was a woman who did beautiful work, kind of like dream work.
Hmm.
And oh yeah, and she has a very whimsical style, a style
Uh-huh.
of uh-huh.
Very comforting, very close.
Yeah, the
And
whole deck is I think ways to positively look at the different cards and to
Mhm.
draw wisdom from those animal teachers. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the comment I was making about this is you made your own suits. You did
Yeah.
not go and get Rider Waite suits, and there's, not, a blind elephant trying to handle everything.
Yeah.
Or, the keeper of sacred tradition. That's 5 of the major, the bowl.
Major Arcana, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Very interesting. What was your most fascinating card that came out of this that you thought she is not going to get what I'm trying to say?
She was really good. She didn't speak very good English. I didn't speak Ukrainian at all. So
Uh-huh.
we did a lot of telepathy. We did a lot of connecting with images. Sometimes because I really designed the deck. So I had an idea of
Mhm.
how I wanted the animals to appear, what form. Sometimes I would take images from the net, not for her to copy, but just to give her an idea of like, this is the movement of the bird that I want, or this is, the way I
Mhm.
want it to appear. This is the energy of the card I want to convey. And
Right.
then she would do her thing. Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite cards is the devil card, which I call the shadow god of liberation.
Ah,
Yeah. And
very
it's a goat, you have to have goat, right?
yeah.
And it has a chain on one side of it, and then a chain of flowers, or a flower, necklace on one side. And it's really about it. Kind of speaks to my book now about, how do you deal with the shadow? Are you willing to look at it and be liberated by it, or are you going to be forever a slave to your shadow?
What's your so your favorite one's the devil?
Well, it's one of my favorites. I also
Yeah.
love the whale card, which is the world. I think it's the world. Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love the wisdom of that card. I mean, all of them. And the fool or the trickster. I call it the trickster, the coyote. So the zero
Ah.
card. Yeah, that's one of my faves, actually.
So what for you? Which card was the hardest for you to get the concept across?
I don't know. I don't know that there was a hardest card. I mean, I just enjoyed every single one. And I would, when I was working on a card, I would ask, I'd kind of go into meditation, which animal would most like to represent this card. So I was
Uh-huh.
working at high level animal spirits, not so
Right.
much animal, super animals in life, but what animal spirits. So it was an easy, fun project because it felt divinely inspired. It just
Mm-hmm.
came through. So there really wasn't a hardest card. Yeah.
Cool. Very well.
Yeah.
Was there a hard one for you to get her to understand the energy you wanted to come out?
Well, some of them, I mean, but it was just minor tweaks. And a lot of time that was the language barrier. But
Mm-hmm.
generally we just got it together pretty good with
Very
imagery and stuff. Yeah. It was
yeah.
fun. Super fun.
Good, good, good. um, and you work with Inner Traditions as a publisher.
I
What are
do.
you working on now?
I'm working on a novel right now.
Okay, which
A
one?
different kind of writing. So I'm
Oh
just
wow, you're totally
really
going
enjoying
off
it.
the radio.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun. And I've always wanted to write a novel, and kind of this is my break from nonfiction. So
Very cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And you're going to be doing a lot more things. Now, you do consultations or readings. Um, how do people get a hold of you for those?
Yeah, my website is www.animalvoices,
Mhm.
ANIMALVOICES.net.
.net.
Yeah, animalvoices.net. Correct.
And do you have a farm there in Alaska? What's your deal here?
Do I have what?
The farm in Alaska, or are you living in one of the cities?
Oh, I live in Wasilla, which is kind of a little, a little town village, about
Mhm.
50 miles from Anchorage. So we're in a valley here. It's called the Matanuska Valley.
Oh, how
Beautiful
cool.
area. Yeah.
Must, because there's a lot of gorgeous images on your site. I've put that out for our viewers to go and check out. You can get your books. What about classes? Are you back up to doing classes, or are you
I'm
planning on it?
doing a class for a organization in Chicago come January.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the specific information on that yet, but it's my first online class. Generally, I do in-person classes,
Mm-hmm.
but I've kind of put that on hold for a while. Just had too many books, too
Too many things going on at one
much
time.
stuff. Can we make a clone of ourselves? Huh?
I've been trying. Of course, I've also debated with seeing if I can get my cat and one of my dogs to just kind of take over some of the responsibilities in the
That would
house.
be good.
The problem is the cat has decided that they don't like any of the things I've added to them, so they're just going to do their own thing, and the dog just wants to play.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a doggy thing for sure. Yeah.
yeah. For years, I had an older cat for years, and I used to call her my office assistant because she would get up and literally pounce on me if I was late getting up and coming into the office.
Ah,
She thought I should be in here. She would drive me crazy,
she
and
kept you in line, huh?
she did. Miss Catherine kept me very much in line for a very long time, and she was a very attentive familiar. Um, and I know that's kind of a hot button word today. It didn't used to be, but she was very much a very good companion.
Mm,
Did not like people at
mm,
all. Like,
mm.
if I had clients come to the house or whatever, she would go and, like, you deal with this.
Yeah, well,
I'll see you when
yeah.
you're done. But, in the later years, she actually warmed up to people, most people. But my partner moved in, and it took him 6 months. He thought I'd lost my mind that I had a cat.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I don't let my partners in at this time I didn't let my partner in the office at all. Like, that is my room. You stay out of it.
Uh-huh.
And she had had her world built in there, so he would come, like, to the door or come in to hand me coffee or whatever. She'd hop behind the monitor down, had
Yeah,
nothing to do with him. It
yeah.
took her 6 months to go, all right, I guess you're going to be around, so I'm going to have to deal with you.
Cats are very particular about their space, aren't they?
They
And they are
are
an animal that doesn't like change.
now
So yeah,
or new humans.
yeah.
My current office companion is a Australian Shepherd,
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
he's fun. He's very energetic.
Yeah.
But he does not like new humans. It's like, you're not my pack, get the hell out of my territory.
Mm.
So it is what it is. We're working with them both. We're working with him. Of course, all my animals are rescues. I don't buy animals.
Mm.
They come to me naturally. And for me, I can look at the picture and it's like, that's mine. I need to go get that now.
Yeah, I hear you. That's how I got my last dog. Yeah. It
Uh,
was just a visual, like, I know that I know you. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what has been your funnest part of researching the animal communicational world?
Oh, I'm kind of just such a research nerd, so I love all of it.
Uh,
I love to be surprised. That's probably
uh-huh.
my favorite part, where I think I'm looking at one thing, and then I find, oh, it takes me to this different part, and it just has a completely different view of what I thought was what
Mhm,
was going to happen. So I love that. I love finding, buried treasures
mhm.
and things like that. Yeah, and I love the synchronicities that come up when we're working with a specific animal or a specific, focus, and things
Right.
happen in the real world, in the waking world, in the dream world, whatever.
Right.
It
Okay.
can be
Together.
magical, huh? You're kind of getting that magical space, and
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you record your dreams? Do you have, like, a notebook beside your bed? Do you just keep the laptop set up beside you?
I write down if I wake up at 3 a.m. or something, I walk into the kitchen, I write down a couple notes, but like to record it in a journal at my desk. I just like that, and I've just have this process over the years where if I write down a couple keywords, I'll remember it,
Mhm.
and then that's how I like to record my dreams. Yeah,
Mhm.
old fashioned way, pen and paper.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
And you do readings by phone and Skype and
Uh,
Zoom.
Zoom mainly, and yeah, I like Zoom best for me. That works best. In Alaska, we just that's just the one that works best for us.
Right.
Yeah, and I like to see people face to face because it is, it's not just me reading for you; it's me reading with you. Huh? So
Right.
I like to. It's a three-way conversation, animal,
Right.
human, and two humans, and we're trying to facilitate better understanding and communication. Yeah.
Mhm. And does the animal need to be present? Like, do we need to bring the
No,
horse into it, or
no,
because
sometimes animals are. Sometimes the cat jumps up and the dog is there, but
Uh-huh.
no, it doesn't need to be because you're connecting telepathically, right?
Right.
So they could be elsewhere. And, and I like to do talks with animals in spirit world as well. So animals who have passed on, we can connect and get their story and find out how they're doing and what their next plans are.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, dear, for joining us. Now, we
Thank
put
you.
your website in, but if you could you spell it out for our listening audience?
I'm sorry, what? My name or
Your
my
website?
Yeah, animalvoices.net. So it's animal, ANIMAL, voices, VOICES.net, N-E-T.
Yes,
That's
and
it.
you are on, to book an appointment, you just go to the site and you can actually just email them, email you, and you guys can work out your schedule because you're in a very different time zone. Like you're
I'm in the Alaska time zone, so
exactly,
yeah.
You're
Right.
literally 4 hours behind Eastern,
Right.
and that type of thing.
Yeah, so we're early. Yeah, so if you want to call, I don't want people in New York to call me at 9 a.m. because it'll be 4 a.m. where I am.
Exactly. And it's like, no, do not call me. I don't, Spirit may have me awake writing, but I'm not taking phone calls right now.
Exactly. Not entertaining at that hour. So lovely speaking with you. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, it was a joy to speak with you. I'm so much enjoying your book. When
Good,
your
thank
novel
you.
comes out, please alert me and we'll get you back on the schedule. Come back and we'll talk about that. Love your writing style. Love the smoothness and the cadence of it. That's lovely.
Thank you.
I can't wait. I'm going to get your deck and be looking for a review of that coming.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Excellent. Okay, you take care.
Take care. All right, guys, let's get a refill and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dottie the Psychic, and I'm sure you're wondering why I'm not wearing any makeup. Well, one reason is to irritate my social media manager, Aeson Knight. Hi, Aeson. The other reason is because I like to get to the naked truth about what it means to be a neurodivergent LGBT person with psychic abilities. I've got vlogs, blogs, and podcasts and videos all related to try to live my best life and helping witches and bitches do the same thing. So, you can check all that out and get a reading from Dottie the Psychic at DOTTIEthepsychic.com. Safe travel and much profit to you.
Do you have a cute pet? We know you do. Each week, Tracy Van chooses from submitted photos a featured reader for her Facebook page and provides a tarot reading. Your adorable pet cat, dog, rabbit, goat, chicken, snake, or more could be her next featured reader. Visit tracyvann.com, TracyBann.com, and click Featured Reader to submit. We look forward to seeing your pet next.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here, and I am here to tell you how to get in contact with me and a little bit about what I do. I am the High Priestess that works with shadow work to help you grow and heal. And I work with access bars, Reiki, I do power forms. I'm recently getting into crystal healing, sound therapy as well. So you can go to Lady Gwendolyn Healing, that is LadyGwendolynHealing.com. Book your appointment with me. I do in person, I do over the phone, I do over Zoom. We can do that as well. My main goal is to help you grow and heal, because I've been there, I'm still going through it, and I let my strength help guide you. See you soon.
Hey everybody, Natalie here from The Pendulum's Path. If you are in need of guidance, direction, spiritual connection, healing, or more, you have come to the right place. I have worked as a psychic and a medium for over 3 years, connecting people from all over the world with their loved ones, giving them insight and guidance into their current situations, their past healings, their blockages, and what they need to know in order for them to have a better future. It would be my absolute honor if you would come to my website at www.thependulumspath.com. Visit my shop. I have a whole bunch of crystals, oils, balms, mystery boxes, and more. And visit my services. I offer 15-minute, 30-minute, and 60-minute sessions. I also have email readings available if you're not comfortable with the one-on-one session with me, or if you just want to try me out. I encourage you to come visit me at the Pendulum's Path, and let's get you back on the right track today.
All right, welcome back. Hello, Joe Darling. So nice for you to join us.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, hanging in there, hanging in there. How about you this evening?
Pretty good, pretty good. I thought we'd take a moment since we were talking animals and discuss how you became a cat owner.
Against my will, kicking and screaming.
No, more like against my leg kicking and scratching.
Yeah, no, basically that was through a phone call. It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently Ollie liked the sound of my voice and got really animated every time I called you, so he would climb up to be part of that conversation.
Yes, with all four wheels.
Yes.
Yes. And, recently we've been working with Ollie because Ollie has gone through some time where he lost some weight.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ollie's our special needs kitty.
Yes.
So, he does this. We go through this with him, and I was feeding him stuff, pork loin, hand feeding him. Yes, I'm the crazy owner that will hand feed their animal. And I was like, oh, what the heck? We'll see if he'll eat some greens, and he loves those. And I go to feed him macaroni and cheese, and you would have thought I was trying to hand him tuna. He about ripped my fingers off. I said, you cannot deny this child. It is all yours.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. No. He's a fun cat. He has definitely been getting very, very vocal.
Yeah, he's
which
finding
is
his
new for him.
voice.
Yeah, he's gotten vocal, which is new. He was kind of a silent kitty. But he's finally learned how to speak.
Right.
And now he does it a lot.
Yes. Anytime I enter the kitchen, he expects to be delivered food. You've been joking with him that he's doing what diet?
Oh, the Hobbit diet.
Yes.
Like, he wants second breakfast and fourth dinner, and like you name it, he wants it.
And you got to introduce him to eggs. How was that as a parent, introducing someone to eggs?
Oh no, he had fun with that. He did. He got excited. But then again, at that point, that was like he was right there ready for you to go ahead and just like feed him anyway. So yeah, once you brought out real food, and he was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I will take the real food, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. The first time I went away and left you to babysit the children, that was an interesting experience, leaving you with Vlad.
Oh yes. I made the mistake. He seemed really into the celery I was having. And so I tried to give him a piece, and he was like, ew, God, no, which was weird because he's typically very like fruit and veggie friendly. And it was like, okay, what did I do wrong? And then I realized, like, yeah, put peanut butter on it, and he's all about it.
Yes, you missed the,
So,
I
forgot his peanut butter.
Yeah.
Because, he is the condiment baby.
Well, he's gotten used to, and you thought I didn't like mustard forever, but he's gotten used to his condiments on his food because I don't specialize, except he doesn't like mustard. So if I would get a hamburger, I normally can't eat a whole one. I would not get mustard on it so that I could feed the rest of it to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no. All good things.
Yeah. All right. Well, I figured we would go into our Reddit panels. First, we'll do Are You the Asshole? And then we'll go into the relationship one. And of course, if you have a question, I'll gladly take it during this segment. We are having a double shot. I have an author coming on after this. He should be here in about 15, 20 minutes. And we will do that show. So you guys get a double shot tonight.
Yep, it's going to be a big show.
Yes.
But y'all only have to put up with me for a little while, so it's awesomer.
No, they love having you on.
There you go. Hey, Brenda. So, all right, are we ready for the Am I the Asshole?
Yeah, let's find out if you're the asshole.
All right. Am I the asshole for telling my nephew about family dynamics that his parents didn't want him to know? Nephew in question is James, 17 male. He'll be 18 in December. The other nephew and nieces in question are Cole, 28 male, and Melody and Brianna, 30 female. My sister is the biological mother of Cole, Melody, and Brioni. Their father died when the kids were 8 and 10. My sister married James's dad 15 years ago, and she never formally adopted him, but did raise him as her son. There was a lot of tension and conflict in the home, and Cole, Melody, and Brioni all moved out immediately upon graduating, turning 18.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship with my sister then ended. It also ended with James and his father. I stayed in contact with the three of them, though, and have always known where they are and that they are not interested in reconciliation. Ever since my sister took on James as her own, they've allowed him to believe she is his biological mother and that the other kids are his biological siblings. And it was only a few years ago I realized he believed they shared the same father as well. My sister and her husband have always encouraged James to believe that his siblings love and want to know him and that they will have a relationship one day. He has been craving that more in the last 2.5 years or so. He has mentioned it a number of times. Some family members and I tried to convince his parents to at least tell him the biological truth so he's not faced with it from people who will not care about cushioning his feelings or making sure he's okay. They refused. My sister said there is no biological truth. They are the parents and all four are their kids, and it ends there. James has been talking to me a lot about finding his siblings and being excited to have them back in his life. He mentioned how maybe he could reconcile their parents and them too, and how he hoped to prove they were never replaced by him, and that he knows it must have been hard to have a baby come into the family so much later. He believed that was what the estrangement was about, what his parents told him. I decided he needed to know after my sister and her husband refused yet again to talk to him. So I was honest. My sister wasn't his bio mom, and his dad was not their bio dad. They were not blood siblings. I told him I loved him and it didn't make him less of my nephew, but I didn't want him blindsided by not getting the response he was expecting. He asked me if they would actually want a relationship with him. I told him no. He confronted his parents about the lies and the way they were setting him up. My sister called and told me I was an asshole and stepped out of my place by telling him what I did without her and her husband's consent. I can see my nephew, James, is struggling and trying to work out in his head after the truth, and it makes my sister's words hit harder. Am I the asshole? I'm going to go with no.
No.
Like this is a convoluted one, and I think it was a really bad choice on the parents' parts to try to run this whole, let's not tell anyone what the situation is and let everyone just believe whatever.
Right.
Which is kind of obvious because what this turned into was, 17-year-old James thinking he was the problem child.
Uh-huh.
That like he ruined the dynamic between his siblings and his parents and him just by being there.
Right.
And then thought he could fix it.
Right.
And it turns out that's not the case.
Right. And it turns out that this is very much a convoluted trying to sort out sticks of who lied, when, where, and how.
Right. Well, and I think the bigger problem that was looming, and I think what the original poster was afraid of, was he was going to really push trying to get back in touch with his step siblings.
Right.
And they were going to be the ones to be like, screw you, we're not related.
Right.
Instead of a more like, dude, that's not even the problem.
Right.
So I don't know what one does with that exactly. But I think it's not this.
Well,
as in what his parents were doing.
right. And, the other part of that is I don't understand why they would lie to him. Now, I understand some families have aunts that aren't really aunts and uncles that aren't really uncles and that type of thing. But why completely erase this man that died existent?
Yeah.
That's sorry, that
Well,
just,
well, no, see, that's not the problem. Is there's something going on with the mom? I thought was my sister is the biological mother of Cole, Melody, and Brioni, not.
No.
Okay, so and their father died when the kids were 8 and 10.
Right.
So I'm guessing Melody and Brioni are twins.
Mm-hmm.
So 8, and then the girls were 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then James's dad,
right,
had a child from a previous marriage, and he doesn't go into that, or the OP doesn't go into that.
Well, it's obvious that the father is James. The James is the father. They don't know where the other mother is.
Yeah, we don't know where the other mother is. We know that the other father died.
Mm-hmm.
So but it almost sounds like the kid's real problem is with their mother.
Right.
Because they cut off all contact with her when they turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she the OP, I'm guessing a she.
Right.
Has kept in touch because I got lost on the gender of OP, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Whichever way, the OP stayed, in contact with their sister's kids.
Right.
After the,
replacement family arrived. I'm sorry, that's what I'm calling it.
Well, yeah, after they flew the nest.
Right.
And they're not interested in reconciling.
Right.
But then all of them have left James sitting out in the cold, even his dad.
Right.
And I would think that would bring up some big questions about, okay, so where's mom? Because there's nothing about mom being deceased.
Right.
So, and I would think that would kind of be a big part here. I'm looking through to see, was there any... I told following explanation, I told my nephew that he is not my sister's bio child, and he is not biologically related to the people he thinks of as his older siblings. I'm not his mother or his parent in any way. I also know he still lives with his parents and is likely not getting any true support to figure this stuff out. And I still told him this is something the parents should really be honest about, which is why I feel like I might be the asshole. Yeah. So, yeah. Now, I still think I think the OP did right here.
Right.
Yeah. 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 I still want to know where's mom? What was, so James's dad is his bio dad.
Right.
But that's not his bio mom.
Right.
So where's bio mom? What happened to bio mom?
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder if there's a reason bio mom got pregnant and was like, I don't want a kid, screw it, I'm out the door.
Well, that's what I'm checking here, because there's some replies, 2 questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then, someone points out, and then there's his maternal family.
Right.
That have obviously been completely shut out, or else there would be okay, how do I have 3 grandmas again? Like, how do I have to have 3 granddads? Like, what?
Yeah, the sister apparently erased her late husband and their dad, and tried to interest her husband was their dad, and James was their brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Which not always a good choice. Well, never a good choice, really. But then that just seems really screwed up.
Right.
Yeah. No, none of that. Yeah, I think OP did right. Like, your sister was being really dumb about this. Like, you can't be dishonest about something like that.
Right.
And now's probably the best moment. Probably 2.5 years ago was the best moment. But at least by now, this is stuff that, like,
Right.
this kid needs to know.
Right.
Like, no, really, like, cat's out of the bag. Quit calling people, assholes, and just be like, okay, we screwed up. Here's the truth. Here's reality. Here's the thing.
Right.
And then try to move on from there. But instead, it looks like they set up this whole fantasy,
right,
of, like, fractured reality.
Okay, so sister did adopt him.
Oh, did actually adopt?
Right.
Still. I mean, that makes it a little more... I don't know. I just still have questions about where's Biomom.
Right.
Like, what is the Biomom situation?
Right.
Because that means there's a whole segment of family he's never known that have never known him. That just didn't get that opportunity because she wanted to be mom.
Right.
One and only one. No others existed.
The aunt doesn't know.
Doesn't know the situation. Okay.
Yeah. The father might know something more, but I don't think he will ever tell James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it was my whole thing of, like, unless Bio Dad is actually Bio Mom.
Right.
And there was a sex change. There's got to be a Bio Mom here somewhere.
Right.
Or should have been. Like,
right.
You can't just, most dads can't go out for a drunken night at the club and come home with a baby.
Right.
So, you kind of get in trouble when you're a dude and you just kind of show up with a child.
Right.
People kind of think you picked one up at the park or something. That's typically a bad life choice. So, yeah. Alrighty. So, yeah, I'm going with definitely not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Let's see what our poller said.
Oh, where's our poll at?
Not the asshole, 100%. Awesome.
100%. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was an easier... This one looked more complex trying to read through it than it actually ended up being. Because I had to read it like twice, and then this third time I finally started to process all of it.
Right.
Because there's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So, yeah. Alrighty.
Right. So moving on to relationship advice.
All right. My wife, 30 female, hates every job she's had, and I'm not sure what to do anymore. My wife and I both work in corporate environments. She has nearly 10 years experience and is quite good at what she does. We both make healthy salaries, so money is not an issue, but at every company she's worked at, she eventually reaches a point where she just cannot continue. It affects her mental health, it drains her emotionally, and she stops feeling fulfilled. When I first met her, she was in a mid-entry level role, and she wasn't getting the recognition or compensation that she deserved. That company is kind of known for being toxic, so she decided to move on. The second company was somewhat of a startup, an exciting role where she got to wear many hats. We both come to learn that means being asked to cover whatever comes up on short notice, fire drill after fire drill. Her complaint started after a year or two, but she stuck it out for 3. But man, did it take a toll on her. Lots of venting, tears, and frustration. She got pigeonholed into work she didn't want to do and felt there was a culture of higher-ups basically being untouchable and colleagues talking down to her and trying to deflect blame for mistakes. So she left there, now at her third job about 6 months in, and last week she told me she hates it. That it's not what she expected. She doesn't know why she was hired because the type of work she was promised doesn't exist. Instead, she's being asked to be a glorified project manager, which she hates. Now, last night, more tears, more venting. She said she would quit tomorrow if she could. I literally didn't know what to say. I think I just kind of stared blankly at her because I couldn't believe this was happening for a third time. I can't really muster up the enthusiasm to give my pep talk for a third time. She mentioned that she wishes she could just be like me and like my job.
Right.
But maybe my secret is that I don't actually love my job. I mean, it's fine. There are parts I like and dislike. And as I've progressed, I've felt like I need to care less. I don't get paid to stress out off the clock. I don't get wrapped up in politics or drama. Just kind of keep my head down and chug along. And so I ask myself why she can't do the same. Has she really gotten unlucky with 3 jobs in a row? Does she have an unrealistic expectation of what a job is supposed to be? Very few people like their job, but it should at least be tolerable and not leave you looking like an emotionless zombie at the end of the day. It's affected our relationship, hence me posting here, because she wears her emotions on her sleeve. She can be fun and bubbly and goofy, or she can have a permanent resting bitch face and look like she hates everything around her. And I'm tired of the latter. Like I said at the beginning, money isn't an issue. If she needed to quit today for her mental health, I could support us well enough. As I've told her, do what makes you happy. Don't worry about your resume or disappointing the person who hired you. I'll support her in no uncertain terms, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder what will be different the 4th time. How long until she realizes it's another corporate structure with someone assigning her work with deadlines and we go on the merry-go-round again? All right. There's a too long didn't read, but we read.
Yep. So, this is my advice. Pull it together. Realize she needs to go find something she can do without a boss. These are classic complaints of an entrepreneur that needs to design her own world.
I think they can be. I think she may also be someone who's underemployed.
Right.
Because I've noticed a lot of people who really have problems with jobs end up being underemployed. Like they really don't like I think some of them are just too honest and apply for the jobs they're actually qualified for.
Right.
Instead of jobs that they could actually do. And it doesn't mean lie necessarily, like, she needs to lie more. But come on. I remember way back when they used to tell us to, just forget the requirements, apply for the job, and try to make it sound like you'll work.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't you have to be a licensed whatever to do this. Okay, if you don't have that license, you can't do this no matter how much you think you can, or you really even can. If you don't have the license, you can't do it.
Right.
But otherwise,
look for something independent that she can set her own deadlines in. Writing would be a good one. Taking and teaching your own courses right now is a great time for entrepreneurs. That is my relationship advice. Since money is not the issue, empower her to do her own thing. Sorry, guys. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll be talking about, are you tired? Are you sick? Are you undertreated? And even more so, abandoned by your doctor? We'll be talking with a doc that may have a solution for you. At the break. We'll be right back, guys. Go get a refill.
Welcome back, Goblins! My name is Jason, and I am the host of the Esoteric Book Club, a podcast that examines titles on the magical, paranormal, the mysterious, and the strange. I release 2 episodes a month in which I review books on esoteric topics, recap news of the weird, and conduct interviews with authors, practitioners, and experiencers. The Esoteric Book Club can be found on every major podcast service or can be streamed directly from esotericbookclub.org.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I provide a blended reading consisting of mediumship, psychic, and tarot cards. A reading from me can cover any guidance you need from relationships with your partner or your family, spiritual, financial, any questions you may need clarity on. If you would like to book an appointment with me, check out my website, tracyvann.com. That's TRACYVANN.com. I have bookings from 15 to 60 minutes you may choose from. That helps if you just have a quick question, need an answer, or if you're looking for a reading in more depth, I'm here to provide the guidance and clarity for you. Let's just figure it out. Bye.
Hi, Techie Joe here. I work with Aeson Knight and some of the best psychics in West Virginia to create amazing live streams and podcasts for the Psychic Coffee Shop Network. Together, we brew up great content discussing news, events, hot topics, and more, all from a psychic perspective. On the Psychic Coffee Shop, we interview amazing authors in the metaphysical realm. Coffee and Tea combines Aeson with Tracy, Dottie, Natalie, or Lady Gwendolyn for the good and the bad of being a psychic. Shameless Self-Promotion with Dottie the Psychic talks to leading and emerging YouTubers and business owners in our community. Mountain Bears brings you the latest in LGBT news and politics. The Psychic That Plans answers the question of, well, how a psychic plans. Plus, we're live on air. We take your comments and your questions, including psychic advice questions. Check out our amazing programming, book an appointment with top psychics, and find out all the wonderful things we have to offer at PCSBnetwork.com today.
Hi, I'm Aeson Knight. I provide tarot readings covering everything from love and relationships to your life questions and your spiritual answers. And also, I provide a lot of guidance in finances and divorces and all those relationship problems. So, if you'd like to get a reading from me privately, not on air, you can feel free to do so by visiting aesonknight.com and booking your appointment. I also provide on-demand services, so if your life is a little chaotic, you can go ahead and click that call now button there on my site, right for a quick answer question. All right, guys, back to the show. Enjoy. Hi, Doc. How are you?
Hey, Aeson, good. How you doing?
Doing great. So, one, I will not insult you by mispronouncing your name, so please pronounce your name. You're much more than just a doc.
All right, Kajiki.
Kajiki. Okay. So, Dr. Kajiki, you wrote a new book that the title is very catchy because it fits a lot of people, especially now in the medical community. Sick, tired, undertreated, and abandoned. But you're focusing in on a different style that I would have originally thought reading that was how the medical community is failing Hashimoto patients and how to get your life back. And you're a chiropractor. You're also a functional medicine doctor.
Right.
What got you on this journey of this? Because, I figured chiropractor, we're looking at spine and posture and exercise and yoga.
That's exactly how my career started, is just doing spine and headaches and back pain and neck pain. And my wife came down with an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. And I realized that Western medicine was not going to get that corrected. So I had to do it myself. And so I went out on this journey and mission to get her healed from her autoimmune condition naturally by talking with other people and people who are smarter than me and going to seminars and online seminars. And I got her resolved of her Hashimoto's in about 18 months.
It took her about 18 months. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, she was originally treated for Epstein-Barr. Now, is that different from Hashimoto's?
It is different. Epstein-Barr is a viral infection,
Okay.
and Hashimoto, it's a component of the Hashimoto's.
Okay. So how common is it?
Hashimoto's, gosh, well, about 1 out of 10 women have hypothyroid,
Right.
and about 80% of those women have Hashimoto's and hypothyroid.
Okay. What's some of the common symptoms?
Fatigue, weight gain, hair loss, insomnia, depression, heart palpitations, digestive issues, dry hair, dry nails, anxiety. It's just this whole myriad of symptoms. So it's very difficult to diagnose. It's very difficult to treat properly.
Right.
And Western medicine chooses to use a thyroid medication to treat this immune system problem.
Levothyroxide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how useful is that?
Well, if you have damaged your thyroid gland to the point where you need that extra help, you need that extra thyroid hormone, it'll help a lot, but it doesn't resolve the root cause of the problem.
Okay. So, it's like, giving insulin to a diabetic, it's not going to make the pancreas get moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what'd you find out? What'd you dig into here and come up with as far as her care?
Well, I did realize it was an immune system problem,
Mm-hmm.
but there had to be some reason or reasons why her own immune system would be attacking her own healthy tissue.
Okay.
And through, like I said, through some of my colleagues and research, I found out that there are things that I call triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And triggers are body dysfunctions that agitate the immune system. And that's why that immune system attacks that own thyroid. And
Mm-hmm.
I've narrowed it down to 9 very common triggers. It's not all of them, but it's the 9 most common. So
Okay.
I look for anemia, blood sugar instability, adrenal gland dysfunction, hormone imbalance, inflammation, gastrointestinal problems, food sensitivities, chemical sensitivities, and hidden infections. And I have found that if I can identify those triggers properly, if I could prioritize them, I can create natural protocols with vitamins, herbs, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, detoxes, de-inflammatory eating plans, lifestyle changes. I can remove those triggers, taking
Okay.
that pressure off the immune system. That immune system won't be as likely to attack that thyroid.
Okay. What about if the immune system decides it wants to attack another part? Because that's the problem with autoimmune diseases. They start, because I suffer from RA and I keep commonly say my immune system gets bored, so it starts choosing a battle.
You're right. And that is the issue, is that if you don't go after that reasons why that immune system is attacking that thyroid, it will go after the joints. It will go after the intestinal tract. It will go after the skin tissue. It will go after the brain. You're right.
Right. So what did you come up with to fix this other than, just, what we get handed all the time? Here's your bag of pills and those don't work. Well, here's another bag of pills.
Yeah. Well, some people need medication. They just have let it go so long that they are in need of a medication, but that still doesn't resolve the immune system problem.
Right.
And so what I found is that you got to know what's wrong before you can know what to do.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the primary mistakes that patients make, is they're so desperate to feel better that they want to know, hey doc, what kind of diet do I have? What kind of supplement do I take? What do I do? And and they get frustrated because I say, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know, because it's like taking your heart to a mechanic and say, what's wrong with my car? I gotta diagnose it. So
right, we gotta take it apart and figure it out.
Yeah, so I got to diagnose it. I got to do blood tests, stool tests, saliva tests. I have to figure out which of those triggers you have, what's the high priority trigger, which one to go after first, second, and third, and then I can give you some natural supplements or some lifestyle changes or some dietary changes to resolve those triggers.
Right. And that takes a lot. What are some of the common triggers you see going on?
I would say the most common ones are inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
food sensitivity, gastrointestinal dysfunction, and blood sugar instability. I would say those are the top four that I see most often in most people.
Okay. Why do you think we're seeing so much inflammation? Like, why is so many humans' bodies mad at them?
Lifestyle,
Okay.
diet, stress,
Okay.
lack
Well,
of
let's take it
exercise.
on. Let's take on. What's the first baby step for someone that's needing to change lifestyle?
I would say their eating habits, not necessarily what they eat, but how often they eat,
Okay.
and their sleep patterns,
Okay.
the way they manage stress,
Mm-hmm.
their lack of or overindulgence in exercise.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It could be where they live, what kind of dwelling they're in. Maybe they live somewhere where they're prone to mold, or
Okay.
maybe they live somewhere where it's near a farm and they pesticide spray overspray. So
Mm-hmm.
I think those are some of the main lifestyle changes. Some of those are totally within your control. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them are not within your control.
Right. Well, we've talked a lot on this show because, I went through like 56 doctors to get one to work with me that didn't want to look at me and go, oh, here's Humira, which is a biological that to me acts like my body's own chemo. And here's your pound of a pound of painkillers,
Yeah.
or here's your pound of Subaltern. Why are doctors failing with something as simple as thyroid disease?
Well, this is my opinion.
Uh-huh.
And you have this kind of select audience who probably understands this.
Yes.
But the reality is, if you get your opinions about your health from conventional medicine,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to understand and accept the fact that they are influenced by the pharmaceutical and the insurance industries.
Right.
And so they will only do what the insurance company deems medically necessary.
Mm-hmm.
They will only deem what this 25-year-old clerk deems appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And your only treatment for thyroid is going to be medication, radiation, and surgery.
Right.
So if you're in that model of medical care and you get your opinions from them, you are only going to get medication, radiation, or surgery and be told to go away.
Right. Well, not only that, but I was watching something earlier today. Another doctor was talking about, and it was an ADHD specialist, and he had sent in a prescription to CVS to get filled for Adderall, and he then gets a fax back from them, like scolding him for prescribing that medication, and I'm like, this cannot be going on. I'll be blunt. You guys have too much student loans to be questioned by, an insurance company
Right.
that, is relying on an RN that has 6 years of education.
I agree.
What's this? Where did we get this at? Like, where did this become the standard?
I've been in healthcare for 36 years
Mm-hmm.
before HMOs came around.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's where it went wrong.
Okay.
I remember the days before HMOs came around. And
Mm-hmm.
when the public got tired of all the high premiums and they wanted a very low cost premium, the insurance industry gave it to them. But what
Mhm.
they didn't realize, it would come with so many restrictions.
Right.
And that set the standard for do as little as you can for as much premium as we can charge.
Right. And see, the other side of that is about that time that you came in, because, I left the floor in 2004. So before then, I worked with a group of great doctors as an RN. I'd call the doctor at 7 o'clock in the morning and go, this is what you wrote last night. This is why you wrote it. Click, have a great day. I'll see you at noon. That type of thing. Because I worked in geriatrical care. It's not that hard. You prescribed Milcolax last night. You prescribed Adderall last night. That type of thing. That was the relationship we had with our doctors. Looking at the medical industry now, there are so many people in that office visit with me that's ridiculous.
Right.
It's no longer just me and the doctor going, and I'm going, I don't want that. Like I have a strict rule with my doctor. I want no narcotics. I want nothing to affect my function. I have too much of a high demand life. Give me something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it went wrong, I believe.
Yeah. I agree. It started going wrong back then with the notepads, the pens, the dinners, and the cruises.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You got your education from the pretty pharmaceutical rep.
Very much so. So when dealing with like inflammation, thyroid disorder, the Hashimoto's, how do we get around this? What do we do? Because we shouldn't like self-diagnose. I never recommend self-diagnosing.
Right.
What's the steps we go here?
Gosh, well, that's a tough one because that's where a lot of your listeners are at is like, where do I go? What do I do? Right. Because my conventional medicine doctor is not helping me out. So where do I go? And that's
if they'll even see you.
Yeah. So that's when they start scouring the internet and they come across people like me. But I tell people, look, if what you've done hasn't worked, start looking at these triggers. And on my website, I've got through my book, I explained to you what's an adrenal trigger, what's an anemia, what's an inflammation trigger. Find out what kind of triggers you think you have, and then start seeking out doctors that can treat those triggers.
Right. And finding ones that will work. Now, there's a very bad, it's a bad thing. When I say I went through 56 doctors, you have what they call doctor shopping, and that being put on patients' charts now. And then doctors won't see you because you won't, the insurance company says you won't agree to their program.
Right.
The doctors don't want to take the risk of losing their license. They don't want to deal with difficult patients.
Yeah.
And here's his website. He does do consultations available. You can book them there, I believe.
Yes.
Get his book. But what do we do now? Because we've got to change the culture in general.
Right. So I would say, once again, go back to before you want to know what to do, find out what's wrong first. Do I have an anemia trigger? Do I have a blood sugar instability trigger? Do I have an adrenal trigger? And if you can find somebody like myself who works in natural health care, who doesn't work with insurance, and maybe doesn't even need to prescribe, then you can say, hey, Dr. B, do you work with adrenal dysfunction? Do you work with anemia? Do you work with inflammation? Do you work with food sensitivities? How do you test for these things? And then if you're happy with their response, set a consultation with them. See how it is.
Well, let's break some terms down, Doc. What is adrenal dysfunction?
All right. So your adrenal glands are your adrenal glands let out a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is your stress hormone. And your brain doesn't know the difference between chemical, physical, emotional, and psychological stress. But your brain has to talk to your adrenal glands to tell it to let out cortisol or adrenaline or epinephrine in order for you to adapt to stresses. It also is responsible for your sleeping patterns. So cortisol determines whether you get up in the morning feeling perky and ready to go, or do you feel like you need another 10 hours? So it could be an adrenal gland dysfunction itself, but I'll tell you, that's oftentimes rare. Adrenal gland fatigue is a misnomer. It mostly is a brain to adrenal communication pathway problem more than anything else. Is the brain just isn't talking to the adrenal glands and telling it to let out the proper messages like it should because of inflammation and because of food sensitivities and because of blood sugar instabilities. So you have to determine, is it a brain to adrenal problem or is it an adrenal problem itself?
Okay. And how does that control naturally?
Once again, depends upon what it is, right? An adrenal fatigue problem is handled differently than adrenal brain to communication problem. So we might handle an adrenal brain problem with adaptogens, which are very smart herbs. They know how to adapt to your stress responses and your cortisol responses. If it's an adrenal fatigue problem, we may give you actual adrenal gland glandulars and some adrenal gland support herbal compounds to kind of give that adrenal gland some support so it can continue to pump out that cortisol because you're stressing it out so much.
Right. So, but you're not like in the back office crushing the herbs.
Correct.
You're actually.
I use third-party companies that have good reputations that have been putting out product for 10, 20 years.
Yeah. So this isn't like the stuff you get at Walmart's, guys, that I promise you is half sawdust.
Right.
Guaranteed it's half sawdust.
Right.
What do you think of the current food situation in the U.S.?
It's awful at best.
Okay.
But you know that I believe in free choice, and the thing is, you know, you have a choice of what you're putting in your mouth, and you can choose to put in a fast food processed hamburger, or you can put in a good grass-fed, grass-finished piece of beef. Yes, there's a cost issue involved, but you're making that choice. There's very few people who are being force-fed food. So you are making that choice, and organic is available. Grass-fed is available. And so I make the choice just like my patients, and I tell them, look, you know, if you want to get better, it's better. The cleaner you eat, the better. I recommend only foods that have one ingredient on the label.
I like that. I really like that. And you have to be careful because some of those foods even have ingredients hidden.
Yeah.
I know you're not a normal listener, but you know, when I was diagnosed diabetic, I went very much no carb, low carb, slow process, all that. We were going to do a Halloween party. Okay, and we were going to be really good. We were going to have one glass of wine. We were going to have a thin crust pizza from a reputable, you know, thing. You know, this is the new diabetic wonder pizza. Yeah, I have a barley sensitivity, apparently. Because I woke up that morning and my sugar was 415.
Yikes.
Yeah. So I drank my water, took my meds, and went back to sleep. And then we started looking through the ingredients, and there's barley. And who would have thought barley would have been in a thin crust pizza?
Right.
You know, you're thinking flour, water. No, there's these little hidden things, these little, and it's like right now I'm delving into this idea that sugar and glucose is connected to pain. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, you know, it's proven in the literature that glucose spikes and insulin surges will cause inflammatory pathways to light up, which will then cause pain pathways to light up. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because there's a theory I have, and I've seen it with almost every psychic I know. They normally have an immune disorder of some sort. Some of the best psychics I've ever known has Cushing syndrome, and they're the type that call me to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And it's like, okay, there's got to be a connection here, and I find it interesting you connected a good bit with the brain, because there's also a lot of psychics that have been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, which makes sense.
Yeah.
When we start talking thyroid reaction, triggering reaction, things that drain the energy of the adrenal glands.
Right. I tell you, I've done in 14 years, I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of saliva tests. Less than 1% are adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
It's a misnomer. People like to say it, but they can't come up with a test that shows me it's really, truly adrenal fatigue.
Right. So how does that work? What is a saliva test? What's the patient experience? What information do you get from those? Because all we see as patients is blood test.
Right.
Let's take 15 vials of this. Let's run you through this machine 40 times until you glow.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why so many doctors miss these triggers, is because certain kinds of testing media is better at finding different triggers. So with adrenals, I believe saliva is the best test. So with a saliva test, it's a very simple test. It's a home testing kit. I send the patient this testing kit in the mail. They get 6 plastic vials about the size of their finger. They drool into this tube 6 times in 15 hours. They freeze it. send it off to the lab. Literally that simple. But what it tells me is, do they have adrenal dysfunction or adrenal fatigue, which tells me about their fatigue patterns? Do they have cortisol rhythm and cortisol level problems, which will tell me if they have an HPA axis problem? It'll tell me if their morning fatigue is related to low cortisol or not. And it tells me about their brain to adrenal communication problem. And it tells me about their DHEA, which is this hormone that is necessary for making adequate amounts of testosterone and estrogen. So it gives me a lot of information. It's a very innovative test. People can do it at home.
It's very interesting. With Hashimoto's, there's a large connection for the male Hashimoto's that actually have a low testosterone level. Why do endocrinologists not want to run a testosterone level when they're testosterone and an estrogen level when they're dealing with thyroid?
I think that in an endocrinologist's mind, if they think it's thyroid, that's all they stick to, and they don't look at anything else. If they think it's low testosterone, they stick with low testosterone. They don't look at anything else.
Right.
They're so very, tunnel visioned about what they believe it is that they don't expand their area to believe it could be other dysfunctions as well.
Right. And it's weird to me because I've had arguments with doctors because, I'm sorry. When I went to school, it was the practice of medicine, meaning we're still trying to learn. The experimentation of medicine, meaning we're still trying to learn. And I'm sorry, doctors haven't been appointed to God status, even though surgeons get trained to be God and think like God. But for me, I'm always the patient questioning the doctor, like, why are we doing this? What about this side effect? What about that side effect? It's like metformin that's prescribed for diabetics, but yet kills their kidneys.
Yeah.
If they're not monitored, that type of thing. So I'm really interested in your natural therapy, your natural pathways. What's an example of a natural prescription, like diet changes, exercise changes? And it's just looking at food sensitivity and going, okay, you don't have barley anymore.
Well, I found that most all food sensitivity tests are inaccurate. They either have too many false positives or too many false negatives. So for me, I don't do a food sensitivity test to determine. I think that elimination and provocation is the best kind of test. And so I will start off a patient, especially if they have a lot of inflammation, I'll start off with what I call a de-inflammatory eating plan. And I will take away all the potential inflammatory foods like gluten, soy, dairy, yeast, eggs, nightshades, nuts, and seeds. And the reason that eating plan works so well is not because of what you do eat. There's nothing magical about broccoli or cucumbers, but there's something very magical about staying away from gluten and dairy and soy. And so when we take away those inflammatory foods and then put out that fire with turmeric or resveratrol or high-grade fish oils or short-chain fatty acids, it does amazing, amazing results in the first couple weeks.
Right. And it doesn't take that long. You actually see a result quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So what's your results?
I probably got a 98% success rate on everybody.
Okay, cool. How's your wife? The patient zero here.
She has not had any Hashimoto's flare-ups in about 14 years.
Okay.
She does, however, go through periods where I have to monitor her digestive function, or I have to monitor her sleep function, or I have to monitor her inflammation. I mean, that's what I tell people is that, look, you can manage and control an autoimmune disease, but you can't cure it.
No.
It's not going away.
Right.
So if you go back to bad habits, it's going to come roaring right back. So she doesn't have this myriad of symptoms, but she does periodically, maybe twice a year or so, she'll have these set of symptoms that are related to certain kinds of body dysfunctions.
Right. And you did say nuts causes inflammation, correct?
I said that nuts and seeds could cause inflammation in a lot of people. And so to be safe, I just take them out for a few weeks.
Right. and then you would like test out, like, okay, you can now have this, you can now have that.
Right.
Right. Now, one of my triggers is nightshades, and it took me forever to figure out what the videos were talking about nightshades. I'm like, I'm not doing deadly nightshade. I'm not taking any cosmic journeys. No, tomato and tomato products, and different. Go into that one.
Eggplants, yeah. So nightshades, which are tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant, they tend to have an inflammatory protein in there that affects a lot of different people. And we don't know who it is. And so the only way to know is to take it out and see if your symptoms get better.
Right. And see if they get more comfortable, see if they get more standard.
Yeah.
What has been your weirdest case? Your hardest, like, you're going, okay, we've done this. What's the trigger? What has been your one pull together there?
Right. I'll tell you, the most difficult case I've ever had was a young girl in Alaska. And she had what they call Hashimoto's encephalitis.
Okay.
So when her immune system got mad, it would attack her thyroid and it would attack her brain.
Oh, goodness.
And she would have 6 or 7 seizures in a year. She was completely bedridden when her family contacted me, desperate for help.
Mm-hmm.
But I broke it down to the basics. Once again, I looked for those same 9 triggers. I found out which ones were primary. I found out which ones were secondary, put her on a de-inflammatory eating plan. And I found out, last I heard, there was about 93 of these cases in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Hashimoto's encephalopathy. I had 2 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds complicated, to be honest, because and patients get tired. They get sick and tired of being told, and I'll be honest, the overweight men over here, we're so sick and tired of being told, go home and eat a salad because that'll fix the cold you have.
Yeah.
Truth. Or, oh, you've got a headache, go home and fix it. Go home and, lose 20 pounds.
Right.
My partner was diagnosed, went to the doctor because he had a headache and a fever and he could not focus. He had Rocky Spire fever and something else at the same time. The doctor just focused on his wife the whole appointment. How do we get them to see past the covers?
You can't. Once again, is you have to understand that they are singular focused.
Mm-hmm.
So if you walk into their office or you have a consultation with them, you have to understand you're going into their office, their territory, their method.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to change the way they diagnose or evaluate you. So you have to deal with it or you have to find somebody else.
Right. Very much so. All right, guys. Now, his book is up on Amazon. His website is either in the description below or in the live chat because, of course, this goes to a podcast. We want to thank our podcasting audience. We enjoy you very much. And you can reach him. Now, how do you do your, because, do you have to go to your office or are you mobile?
Yeah, I've been strictly virtual for about 14 years. So COVID actually did me a favor.
Yeah, I got people used to it.
Yes, exactly. People who said, no, I want to see you. That think it's not so bad now. I don't have to drive anywhere. So I can work with anybody in the world. If you can get a delivery and if you have an internet or phone, I can work with you.
Right.
So you can do it, get a consultation on my website, drkajiki.com, drkajiki.com. You can sign up for a consultation. We'll talk for 30 minutes, see if you like me, see if you're a good fit, and then we can decide at that point what kind of testing we're going to do for the triggers.
Okay, and what's the average cost of the testing?
That kind of depends upon what we're looking for. So we start off with a $97 consultation. You get 30 minutes of my time. You could fire away any question at me you want, and I'll let you know how much testing is going to be because maybe you need a stool test, maybe you need a saliva test, maybe you need a blood test. So all of the care is personalized.
What's your most expensive?
Probably a stool test, which is about $371.
Okay. Yeah. So we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars.
No.
Because the big medical. They always push that, oh, private consults with doctors are so expensive. Only the rich can have them.
Yeah. It's a $97 consultation.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you, Doc, for joining us. You have a lovely evening, dear.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Aeson.
Thank you. All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this double shot of the Psychic Coffee Shop. I want to take a moment and thank our Patreon sponsors who make this station run. They not only they not only feed us with their dollars, which we greatly appreciate, but they feed us with decisions. They feed us with thoughts and ideas and giving us a new view of the things. So if you want to learn about how to have a us at the ready and to become part of the coffee shop, you can go check out pcspnetwork.com. And you can always reach me at aesonknight.com or pcspnetwork.com. And we want to thank them by saying thank you, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Shannon C and Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Dottie the Psychic, Tracy Vaughn, Donna Warwick, Kathy Bell, and the Laughing Tree Grove. And again, if you want to learn more, please visit PCSP Network. And you guys have an amazing evening. Links to both authors for our podcasters are in the show notes. And we will be back Thursday night with Coffee and Tea. Now, tomorrow night is Lady Gwendolyn, and she will be on Cauldron Readings. All right, guys, you have an amazing night, and we'll see you later. Good night, y'all.
Tell me the deck is stacked. You can whisper behind my back. You can show me how the odds are up against me all day long. But I've been through the fire and come out alive, and there's no more fear in my eyes. Oh, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop me now. Come too far for you to tie him to the ground.